Well, hello, and welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday. And today I'm taking a look at one that hasn't been out for quite a while. It's a little bit of an older model, 200 series. This is the TS243. Yeah, that's it. This is the Humpback. This is a Mazwan Mokhtar design, and kind of uses a little bit of their previous design philosophy along with Mazwan that you can see is, well, there's no real blade branding whatsoever. And, well, there isn't on the pivot collar either, which would be kind of nice for them to bring back for some models for some folks. But, okay. Yeah, I covered that. This is a Mazwan Mokhtar design, and we can see that maybe just a little touch. It will show in the inside of the liner there. We will see that more later on when I actually do disassemble this guy here. It is a front flipper and a back flipper, and it does have that kind of issue with when you have both of those of you really have to light switch this, because otherwise, yeah, that's just gonna hit your finger there and you're never really going to deploy it. You need to really get your index finger out of the way there for that to fully clear. Well, we got that. And we got the little front thing there. The detent on it is a little bit on the looser side to make that front flipping a little bit easier. Here's definitely a throwback, at least for some of the TwoSuns. This is in 14C28N steel. It's not D2. Stonewashed. And in this particular case, I honestly don't remember if I did that after the fact or not. What I can tell you is, and yeah, you can see it here on a couple of angles here, is I absolutely scratched the absolute hell out of the blade here. This was one of the few that ran into some issues trying to sharpen with the KME. This was one of the last ones before I was like, you know what, and just ended up using the work sharp for most things. But even so, I can scratch up a blade like that on the work sharp randomly. I don't necessarily know what makes it different or not, but that's why I just throw some painter's tape over the angles on both sides before I sharpen anything. Use a really sharp or really aggressive coarse stone to remove the tape right over the blade and then sharpen it. Don't have any of those problems anymore. It is a little annoying and it almost kind of feels like you're sharpening with a condom on, but hey, it gets the job done. And I don't get the ladies pregnant and or get scratches on my blades. So it's going to be a concession that I end up being fine with moving forward. So, yeah, this thing is quite large, even though the blade on it's only basically about 3¼ inches from the top flat here over to the very tip there. We can see that I guess technically you could call this a drop point, but that tip still does end up on the north side of that pivot. So a very, very gradual drop point, but huge amounts of belly on this thing. And with it being a nice full flat grind, has some pretty good blade geometry going on here. We got 3.75 millimeter on the blade stock thickness on there. And we have just a little tiny bit of I wouldn't call that a swedge, but just kind of a knocking down of the top spine there. Not really a crown spine, so to speak, as it's two very individual facets, but it does kind of match quite a bit with the back spacer that's fully featured here. Something that is interesting with this guy, it's not the only one, but I do feel I should kind of specify that this thing is genuine carbon fiber, both sides of that. Absolutely no problems there. But we have full titanium hardware on this thing. Well, not the Chicago screws of the pivot thing there. But as far as both liners, titanium. We got the pocket clip, titanium as well, and that whole backspacer, titanium. So this is a titanium liner lock, which I wish there were more of them out in the community, just differing models and stuff like that. TwoSun's done a couple of them. This one, I think the TS258, which is a much more recent model from Wong that uses some G10 and titanium, does that. And then I have a version of the TS50 that's also using that. But I haven't really seen a whole lot of other companies do that. And I was accidentally suckered into purchasing an artisan cutlery because Blade HQ didn't have the correct information on it. They just copy pasted it from the titanium liner lock or the titanium frame lock versions of it. So that was annoying, but I still like the knife, so I kept it. But still, that's something Blade HQ really needs to to pay attention to. I've found wildly inconsistent information, especially on new variants, because they copy and paste. A lot of times, probably because they don't have the information in time for when they expect that those new pages to be there or something like that. But they're also not super great about going back and fixing that. So I really do hope that 2023 they end up doing a little bit better job on that, just so people know what they're buying before they actually get it in their hands. But all right, that was a bit of a rant. Sorry about that. Yeah, full titanium hardware going on here. Unfortunate part about a little bit of that is there is like zero lock bar access going on here. It is scalloped on both sides. I don't necessarily have too much difficulty actually disengaging it, but there is just a little bit of uncertainty feeling on if I've actually got the that liner fully out of the way. Whereas if there was just a little bit more of a scallop in there, which yeah, I could technically do with a Dremel if I really felt like it was absolutely warranted, then there's that. But that would be something that if there were to be an up version of this particular model that comes out in the future, that would be something that I would change. Unfortunately, if they were going to do an up model on this, it would use D2 because that seems to be about the only steel they believe that they can work with correctly. And then there's a very, very few smattering of M390 that they do now. So I do hope that they kind of get with the times a little bit and try and update their blade steels just a little bit more. It would be nice to see something else. I know they did try a little one particular model in AUS 10. Not exactly my favorite steel, and I did a cut test, and it cut about as well as I kind of assumed. Nowhere near holding a candle to D2, but there are some other steels out there. Um, Depending on who you ask, VG10 is going to do a little bit better than AUS 10 did, but I mean there's a lot more companies out there using some higher end steels now. Kaiser kind of forged the way with having a lot of their budget models using 154 cm. Yeah, I know it's an American made steel, and I think TwoSun probably tries to avoid using that steel to avoid the raised tariff costs and stuff like that. So it's probably not super interesting for them. However, some of their other contemporaries in that same space, Mocenary and a little bit of Six Leaf, who both work with Rattlesnake Design, who used to do stuff from there. They're jumping on the bandwagon of 154 CM, as well as quite a few other companies. And it is a fantastic steel for doing some more budget models. Oh, Vosteed also. They've done one or two in 14C, and they've moved over to 154 CM as well. It's just a great steel that if they can get over the probably raised tariff costs for it, I would love to see TwoSun start to use that rather than D2. Their D2, like I've done with my cut tests, and you can probably find some of the summations of that. Not the full videos, because apparently YouTube thought I was threatening someone. My guess was I was threatening this stupid rope by cutting it over and over, and then making my marks here, but for whatever reason, months ago, all of those got taken down as a random violation of YouTube's guidelines. No information about what that actually meant, and of course there was no reprisal. So I don't have any idea. But the cut testing on their D2 pretty darn good, but still it's variety is also nice, which is why they used to use 14C on quite a few of their models, including this one. Alrighty, a little bit of that rant over with. This is an enormous knife. I don't mean that in length. As I said, it's basically about 3¼ inch or 82.6 millimeters from the flat of the scale up to the tip there. Nice amount of belly on it. And because this thing is nice and tall, it doesn't really feel like an itty bitty little tiny knife. It really feels like you can get a lot of work done on here. And because it's fairly thick, we do have a 0.64 inch or 16.2 millimeters thickness going on here. However, there is a channel down the middle where your fingers can end up being in there. So to your actual fingertips, it does feel a little less thick, but it still gives you a really nice meaty handful. So works out great if you really are muscling through some cuts in a lot of different ways. Really turns out to be a comfortable handle. So I appreciate that. You've probably heard it a couple of times when I'm opening this because of this backspacer, but it does have a, integrated lanyard pin sort of thing. It actually is using the Chicago screw that's holding on the pocket clip as that. Nice design that I haven't really seen a whole lot of other companies really do something with that actually use Chicago screws, but great idea. And I really haven't seen too many other TwoSuns do that much. But still, with this backspacer here, this is not a quiet knife, as we can hear. It's got a real kind of high-pitched reverberation, clack kind of sound to it. Little bit more subdued if you use the back flipper on there instead of the front, but yeah, this knife definitely announces that it has opened. And you know, some people are a little bit more interested in the acoustics on knives than others. To me, this one in particular doesn't really bother me, but I don't particularly like a lot of models that make the ting kind of resonant sound to me, because that's usually hardened steel hitting hardened steel, and that always worries me just a little bit. I don't know. That's just more or less a personal preference, I suppose. So this thing does have a finger choil on it, and in typical Mazwan fashion, way too small for my fat ass fingers. I don't think the ass needed to be in there, but fuck it. We're all right. Well, I've really gone off the rails with some language here. But yeah, the finger choil definitely a little bit smaller than I would personally like. Of course, I can fairly easily cut that in a little bit, and that wouldn't be all that bad. We can see, because of the stone wash on here, very very obvious for the plunge grind lines, and it ends right at that at the heel of the blade there, which is fine for the first few sharpenings. Like, I haven't hit that to make it smile, but another couple in, and yeah, that'll probably happen. So to stretch out that finger choil might not be all that much of a bad thing. As we can see on the back here, the stop pin is also internal to the blade, so it's shot through the blade and rides through holes in the titanium scales here, which means if I want to cut in any amount of finger choil or whatever, absolutely possible. We don't really have any problems of maybe closing the knife and the knife moves in too far, because a blade stop pin would be right there behind that heel or something like that. So that's a really good way to be able to add extra modability to a knife's design. So I do appreciate that quite a bit. And let's see, and some weights on this thing. As you can see, yeah, It's a substantial knife, so we got 5.54 ounces going on here. That's 157 grams for all y'all in metric countries. And yeah, because of that, it doesn't feel super crazy dense for its size, but it's still going to announce itself in your pocket. It's not going to be like one of those Ned Flanders, feel like you're wearing nothing at all. You're going to consciously be aware of it in your pockets. But still, that's something that you're going to basically run into with a lot of larger knives. Something that might bother some folks here is that the tip is quite up towards the scales there. So if you are had your finger coming down in here, it can catch on there and poke you just a little tiny bit. Something that some people have had concerns about the TS243 button lock. Um, Kind of affects this one. Not quite as much, but it's still definitely there. Something that might have been all right if the blade was able to close just a little bit further into the handle. That would, of course, require a little bit of remodeling of the back spacer there to allow that to happen, and of course, where those stop pin tracks are on the liners there. But hey, there you go. And lastly, this has Mazwan's kind of a ball clip going on here. However, this one has a decent amount of flex to it. And it rides in a channel on these scales, as we can, yeah, hopefully you can end up seeing that. So this one actually isn't as difficult as quite a few of his other models there. It's a little bit more accepting of, pants pocket material. But that being said, it could still probably be improved. I do like having a nice solid ramp to help actually move a clip out of the way and stuff like that. And hopefully some newer models from Mazwan will do something like that. So there we go. How about if we do some blade size comparisons here? Let's go ahead and pull out a couple of spider cones. We got, that's a paramilitary too. This one's probably overkill. Yeah, that's the Mannix 2XL. That's not necessarily the other Spydercos I wanted. Ah, here we go. We got the Endura 4 there, which definitely much thinner blade or handle material, all of that sort of stuff. Let's see, and I do have Benchmade models here. Hey, I can actually use it for once, or for one of the first times. That's a Benchmade Griptilian. I've replaced the scales with G10, but otherwise they're the same dimensions and geometry and all that sort of stuff. So there we go with that. There's the 940, fairly similar as far as both of those kind of things go. So yeah, I mean I can pull out the bug out, but it's just gonna look real tiny. Alrighty, and let's see another couple of mainstays here. We got the Rat number 1. This one is in D2, which is now not the fanciest version because at SHOT Show they just released a new version of this using red G10 and S35 VN for the blade steel. Not quite as affordable though. I don't remember if they were 100 or 130 bucks or something like that. Definitely what you would expect out of a large knife made with S35 VN steel. But hey, figured I would at least throw that out there in case someone may have missed that particular announcement from SHOT Show. But there we go with the blade size comparisons. Alrighty. So, in conclusion, as a lot of people would end up doing, who are generally, if they're writing something like essays or something like that, might say, I really do like this knife quite a bit. One of One of my on the list of Mazwan designs that I have. This one's definitely up there. Maybe not my absolute favorite, but yeah, this thing can do a heck of a lot of work and is really built nice. There's a lot of stuff to really like about it, and a couple of shortcomings. But hey, there you go. That kind of sums up a lot of TwoSun models in general. So there we are. So yeah, I'm done with the standard review here. However, as always, I am going to be taking this thing apart. So if you'd like to stick around and see kind of the inside of this thing, then come along. All right, I can pull out that first Chicago screw that, as I said earlier, is the integrated lanyard pen for it. And then, of course, we have a little bit shorter screws here for the back spacer. So I shall keep those in a little separate pile here. And then, of course, we have pivot screw. And these guys, which are polished titanium. So in case you want to anodize those a different color, like I've done bronze on a couple of knives, then that's super easy to do. Alrighty, so there we go. There's the pocket clip. You can see that it does inset into the carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is not quite as friable, which is I do think is probably the technical term for that, for being able to destroy scale material, like something like if this was in micarta, how it would create more wiggle and kind of mess up some of that stuff after the fact. This guy the pivot was fighting me just a little tiny bit, but now I got that loose and hadn't got the rest of it here. So this one isn't doing the absolute best as far as some disassemblies go, but that's okay. We'll get there. There's one of the bearing races. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, the pivot just wasn't wanting to come out, but it's out now. Of course, now these Chicago screws are also giving me some guff. All right, we in there. Okay, so yes, that did take just a little tiny bit of time here. As we can see, something that I didn't really mention too much in the initial review of this guy is this does kind of have a little bit of an acid wash tinting or something like that going on to these scales here. So if you did want to anodize them some different colors or something like that, pretty easy to do, but you are going to have to take some Scotch-Brite or something like this to actually remove the coating that ends up happening on here. We got the hardened steel insert, which doesn't act as an over travel stop because we have full-length scales that are going to do that. So there we go. We do have a D-shaped hole here on the lockbar side, so that is a little bit different than some of their super new models here. And here we are with the show side lock, and that's going to actually have your little laser engraved Mazwan logo as well as TwoSun over there. And yeah, other than me apparently having some lint chilling on the backspacer here, that's basically it. You would kind of think the way that this backspacer has a little bit of a chamfer here. Some of their newer ones actually do have a channel on the inside to help the blade lay a little flatter here, but obviously not done on this particular model. But yeah, there we go. We got their standard bearings. There's that internal stop pin I was talking about there. And yeah, we do have a detent wrap here. Sorry about having apparently an errant beard hair getting on the blade there. But yeah, overall, I do like this thing quite a bit. Of course, I do like taller blades for a lot of harder use sort of stuff. Very, very thin blades do kind of have their place a little bit, but I do generally find almost all companies struggle with having them have the same amount of good blade geometry to them. So they're usually really, really thick. Something that I've run into, especially on the CRKT CEO, but a whole bunch of different ones. Boker's got some executive blades that have that same kind of problem too. So I don't tend to pay much of them all that much attention, just because I do like a fairly slicey kind of blade geometry, and well, it's just much easier for someone to actually get that out of a taller blade. So hey, there's one reason why I particularly have that preference there. All right, everybody, stay where you're supposed to be. Okay, cool. Now I should be able to somewhat easily get these things on here. There we go. Hooray. Alrighty, I already have a lubricant all up on these things, so I don't really feel the need to add any more. But there's that. There's the other bearing race. Then line up that D-shaped pivot over there. And then immediately pull it off because you're an idiot and you didn't remember to actually put the backspacer on. Oh, yay. Sometimes I amaze myself with the amount of ineptitude that I can actually provide. You know what? This is here. Let's see if that's going to work for me. No? Alright. Yeah, this is a little tiny shoehorn. I basically just use it for a pair of slippers that don't have enough opening for my for my foot. I'm not in the best shape, but I'm not to the point of an old man where I actually need orthopedic help to get normal shoes on. So let's put it that way. I usually here it is. I was trying to find my what is it called, a Jemmy? The actual name of it. Spudger. That's the word for it. Yeah, I have done all sorts of the bad. So yeah, that's gonna be fun trying to get this stupid thing off. I can do it with violence, but I would rather not. Okay, that seemed to have worked out since I was able to punch that out and through. So good. I don't have to use violence. Okay, actually get the stupid thing in the correct place here. Now that'll actually work correctly. You know, if I actually cared enough, I would do some edits here so that y'all wouldn't have to see how much of a dumbass that I could be. But what's the fun in that? That's half the fun is seeing how somebody else can do all this stupid stuff so that, you know, you can laugh at them, but, you know, still enjoy the journey along the way here. So there we go. Got the pocket clip back on there. It doesn't sit super flush because of the channel and the carbon fiber. That's just a thing in general. I don't think it detracts from it, which is why I didn't really mention it in the standard review or anything. Alrighty. So yeah, comes together, makes that clack sound again. Pivot might be just a little bit too tight, but it was still working super great for me. Still no side-to-side play? Yeah, that's about as good as it's going to get. Mostly due to the stonewash finish that we got going on the blade there. It does hamper the drop shut ability of some blades, just adding that friction there from the different scratch lines and stuff like that. But still, works out super fun there. And yeah, it's basically centered. So yeah, we're all good. So yeah, that was fun. Went a little bit long because I'm a bit of an idiot, and I also had a little bit of a rant in the middle of the video here. But there we go. There's everything that I wanted to cover here on the TS243 Humpback from Mazwan Mokhtar. So as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe.